Hello. Yeah. Check it out. This might be the first time I've hosted in back-to-back weeks. And I'm pretty happy with that, not gonna lie. It makes me feel like the captain. But let me get some stuff going here. Christian will be on momentarily. I launched just like a minute early just to get ahead of it. Let's see. Winnipeg versus St. Louis is about to start very soon. This is the only game on the docket for tonight. Definitely a pretty big, consequential one. Some narrative wars attached to it, for sure. Um, let's take a look. What the frick? Hey, how's it going?
It goes.
It's pretty smooth bringing you on for once, so that's nice.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. IIHF U18s wrapped up yesterday with Canada winning back-to-back gold medals for the first time in their history. Quite an exclamation point on that performance with a 7-0 victory against Sweden, closing things out. Definitely like good depth on the Canadian roster, as I believe 17 skaters scored at least one goal across the tournament, as they got pretty good roster assemblage, which isn't always something that's privileged to them due to this tournament concurring with another with the road to Memorial Cup, the road to the Memorial Cup going on during that phase. Definitely a good last minute showing for a lot of the 2025 draft eligibles, as well as a look ahead to what some of the 2026 eligibles are capable of, such as Ryan Lynn and Keaton Verhoff on the defensive side. We got to give a lot of credit to Philip Ekberg from Sweden for his ridiculous tournament as well, with 18 points, I believe, to his name over the course of 7 games, which quite easily netted him the MVP. Team just sort of ran out of gas at the end. Some underwhelming performances along the way as well. It happens. Let's take a look at something here. Okay, there we go. The yeah, the interface was giving me a little bit of trouble there. I was just trying to sign into another session so I could get this cross posted onto my TL, but for some reason I was logged out of my other device that I was trying to sign on to, so I had to go through the authentication process. My mic was temporarily muted there for a moment, but nothing I wasn't able to turn back on, so that's good. Yeah, let me just get that going on my TL now so I can really cast a broad net here with the reach. There we go. And there will be more developmental hockey points to hit subsequently in the dedicated block. But for now, we'll get down to the meat of some other topics that are more concretely on the pro level, because certainly a lot has unfolded and is about to unfold in this space of time that's worth talking about for both men and women, for that matter.
Yeah. What a week it's been for hockey this week. Looking to the PWHL, we have the recent news following Boston's truly incredible collapse yesterday, and one of the truly worst professional hockey performances I've ever seen in my lifetime. I've never seen a team be so unprepared for such an important game. And for a team that has played as badly as they have over the last month, they kind of got the ending they deserved, as awful as that sounds. Um, Sometime this week, maybe tomorrow, maybe later in the week, gonna have my production model with a new feature of points per 60 all situations dropping, which is gonna do a great job of contextualizing the things that Boston doesn't do well and what other teams do well. But really not shocking as the Montreal Victoire have elected to play the Ottawa Charge in the first round. Yes, the Ottawa Charge were the third-seeded team in the postseason, with Minnesota being the fourth, making it pretty interesting in the sense that we're finally seeing a playoff team in a league choose to not play the lowest seed. The decision for that one's pretty obvious, of looking at Montreal's roster, looking at their P60, and realizing that Minnesota has a lot of high-end scoring. They're a team that matching up with is difficult, despite their questionable goaltending. In terms of how Montreal's roster is constructed, Ottawa's deep, but with the exception of Teresa Vanisova, not a roster that can really do a ton of damage in terms of superstar performers. So, Montreal does the logical thing, even though it kind of is the same fuck up they did last year if they're going to play a much stronger defensive team in the first round, rather than courting a team with some high-powered offensive upside. We'll see if that works out better for them this time around. Of course, it is fair to say we don't know what Mashmeyer looks like coming off of her injury. But we do know that Gwyneth Phillips is a disciple of Aaron Frankel, has the opportunity to do one of the funniest things ever and be another Northeastern goalie bringing dread to Quebec's crown jewel city. Looking to Toronto, Minnesota, that's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be high flying. It could be high scoring. Once again, I'm being a coward and a little bitch, and I don't want to make predictions, especially with how poorly my NHL picks have gone this year. But Toronto and Minnesota should be offering us at least a much more high-scoring affair than what we're going to see in Montreal. I will say, unlike Boston, Toronto has the high-powered offense to not look like a Tortorella team against Minnesota, where everything's just worked to the perimeter and you get absolutely fucking blown apart.
Yeah. I love.
So I guess,
You,
go ahead.
yeah, no, you go ahead. Uh,
Nah.
I'm sure it's more consequential to the overarching picture. Like mine is kind of a bit of a zinger that I can save for the very end of that segment.
Yeah, just really looking at Courtney Kessel somehow keeping her standing with the fleet heading into the off season. Chances are she won't face consequences, and the fleet will continue to really just fall down the standings into the future. As we add 2 expansion teams, as we don't know what the expansion draft rules are going to look like, we're going to get a good playoff, and then we're going to get absolute fucking chaos.
I love how I was on the money in like my anticipation that what transpired at the Zongas Arena yesterday was the #1 worst coaching performance you've seen in person.
Yeah, I mean, man, I've seen a lot of. I'm a Ducks fan, and I said this loudly and obnoxiously in that crowd. I've seen the Dallas Aikens years. I've seen the Greg Cronin years. I've seen at the top level, not to be an asshole, I've watched MCLA for 2 years.
Oof.
I don't think I've seen a team more unprepared for a moment or a game. Like, I can't think, like, and again, we're using different barometers, and maybe this isn't fair when I bring up MCLA losing a game by where they surrendered 10 goals to Plymouth State last year. Like, at the level of scale, a game you cannot lose, to be incapable of hitting 5 and 6 foot passes, incapable of corralling passes, incapable of positioning yourself strategically and taking the ice in front of you defensively against the forecheck, the inability to know your gaps. One of the in like my point to coaching and not having control of the room. I knew that game was over on Minnesota's 3rd goal, the Kendall Coyne Schofield power play goal. And why I attribute this to coaching. And any player, and this is me breaking out of my traditional habit with not shit-talking players and coaches. I'm going to shit-talk a player who I very much like, and, she deserves all the negative attention for this and more, and her coaching staff definitely didn't give her the credit. Spoiler alert, in the regular season, she was the star forward with the worst P60 in the PWHL, which more so implies she's also just a fucking minutes gremlin. But Susanna Tapani on that 3rd goal for Minnesota it's deplorable. You're on a penalty kill, you're down 2-0, and you're playing a hero hockey.
And hero.
You're playing an hero hockey, right? You have the puck, you've killed the initial face-off, you've survived the first 30 to 40 seconds, there's 4 minutes left in the first, you're down 2. It is 2-0. Worst lead in hockey. The #1 thing you should never do. You've cleared center red with possession. You're going 1-on-3 on the edge. You chip that in deep, and you get a fucking change. 100 times out of 100. No, you try to carry that in and go 1v3 while your Ds are changing. And all of a sudden, it's 3-0 because you have nobody in position because you tried to go get a shorthanded goal. You tried to establish possession when you just needed to survive to the horn. You've pretty much cost your team this season with selfish play. And there's, like, once that's allowed to happen in a game and that's acceptable play and you didn't sit for the next 40 minutes, and I'm not, of the old school hockey mentality of, you make a defensive mistake, you sit. But you literally single-handedly put that game out of reach. And you're a veteran. You should be sitting for the next 40 minutes. I'm sorry. This isn't a guy on a forecheck out of gas, like a Bedard or a Mishkov situation where they just weren't backing gap fast enough. Like, you consciously picked a low danger chance with huge risk and got burned for it. Despicable.
I can see the epic handshake meme already. Maybe even using the FMA Brotherhood template for a shake-up. Susanna Tapani, Adam Fantilli, and Hero Puck.
And hey, they both missed the playoffs by what? On the last day of the season.
Uh-huh. Man. Of all times for us to dive into edgy mid-2000s 4chan memes, I love that it was us discussing how the Boston Fleet season evaporated at the last minute in 24-25.
You know, as I said very, very, very loudly at that game yesterday, live, laugh, toaster, bath. Ugh. In theory, though, Boston being eliminated from the postseason for our written content purveyors may or may not get a better quality service from me this postseason, as theoretically I should be able to recap and watch more games since I will not be in the city of Lowell.
This is true.
TBD for reasons that eventually will be talked about on this podcast, but may or may not ever get public social media announcements.
Yeah.
Do with that ominous information, listener, whatever you would like to do.
I'll even double tap on the vagueness at some point to really enforce that. I couldn't help.
And I think, yeah,
what you got?
I was going to hand over to you for any additional prospect information.
Oh, yeah, there's plenty of that. Although I really just wanted to comment on the fact that the most intriguing thing to me about this current Blues Jets game is not how quickly St. Louis was able to get on the board, so much as it was Nathan Walker getting first shift, because I don't think there are probably very many instances of a Welsh-born, Australian-raised forward getting a spot in the starting six of a Stanley Cup playoff game. So I had to really acknowledge the beauty of that moment.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that Walker was raised in Australia after having been born in Wales, we've acknowledged this behind closed doors before, but I think it makes his path to the NHL all the more impressive, considering Wales most likely has a better hockey apparatus than Australia does. To take nothing away from the community for the sport down there. But come to think of it, before I tap into this CHL playoff bracket, I want to verify that I have my particular facts correct on a specific component. Yes, he did. I had a feeling, because I had a vague recollection of him playing for the Cronulla Sharks Rugby League junior team, but he was indeed raised in Sydney, so his family pivoted from Wales to New South Wales. Some real beauty there. But most importantly, let us commence with the aforementioned road to the Memorial Cup in mind. I keep dropping the because that's what the official hashtag is. It's not road to the Memorial Cup. It's just road to Memorial Cup with no article attached.
I do like my cups to be memorial.
Some fucking real Mickey Mouse shit there from the CHL marketing team. But the J. Ross Robertson Cup final was matchup was set in stone without much drama on either side of the bracket. The Oshawa Generals swept the Barrie Colts in 4 games, and the London Knights, who consequently became the first team in OHL history, I believe, to appear in the final 3 consecutive years, or at least capture the Western Conference title, Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure on either side of the bracket, although I could be mistaken on that. I need to double check. Because I mean, Oshawa was an absolute fucking wagon for the first half plus. Like we're talking like you, you know um, from like the fucking 1930s to 60s, almost continuously were always in the running as the OHA's predominant and preeminent superpower, accounting for a good amount of their success historically as the most dominant franchise in the league's history / the association, as it was once as pre like modernization of the junior format. Those leagues were organized on an association basis, as opposed to having like umbrella leagues for each of the three regions, which made the Memorial Cup format quite interesting because hypothetically you could have like you know, two teams from the same province facing each other at multiple different stages of the process, as I discussed in my section on Derek Sanderson's victory as a member of the Niagara Falls Flyers back in the mid '60s. But in any event, yes, okay. They are in fact the first team in at least uh, yeah, like 3.5 decades to make the finals 3 years in a row since the Sioux Greyhounds. My suspicion was about it being the Wayne Gretzky Trophy, which marks the Western Conference title specifically. They were the first to capture the Western Conference title 3 years in a row. Never been done before in the years that it has been aligned. 1993 was the um, last instance of a three-peat appearance being completed, with that being the last year of Sue's sequence. So 32 years it's been since this has happened, and has never happened with this particular alignment. So what a run it's been for them over the course of those few years. Just this consistency, even with the changes that happen season to season, and that umbrella organization. This, of course, also meant that they swept all three series in a row, setting up a rematch of last year's final. I do anticipate that London will win, but with Beckett Seneca healthy this time, and with them having another year of development under his belt, maybe we'll see a little bit more of a competitive series. But it does really feel like that trophy and the Memorial Cup are London's to lose. Of course, I said this last year, and they only accomplished half of that before the Saginaw rivalry eventually, tilted in Saginaw's favor at the last possible moment, quite literally, considering the dramatic ending to that Memorial Cup final. But that should be good. Of course, we also had the WHL. Not a lot of drama in either conference final there either, as Medicine Hat swept Lethbridge to capture the Eastern Conference title. And the Spokane Chiefs, who were really only tested on this run by the Victoria Royals in a series that could have gone either way, and only lost one game to Vancouver, swept the Portland Winterhawks to capture the Western Conference title. This brings them to pretty expectedly. It seemed like once their trade deadline passed, particularly with the acquisition of Andrew Crystal, who has just been doing unprecedented things, particularly in the context of Spokane's organizational history, brought them back to the big dance in the WHL for the first time since their very memorable 2007-08 campaign, wherein, of course, they captured the title, and just like they did the previous time that they had done so in 1991, went on to win the Memorial Cup as well. You can't rule that out this year either. As much as I tout London, they also have some competition for like most offensively talented team in the CHL from that end. So really, like those teams could be the ones to look out for, but you never know. Medicine had also, have quite an impressive offensive repertoire as well. Gavin McKenna is obviously the, primary driving force there, especially with how ridiculous his record-breaking point streak has gotten and the accomplishments he's had along the way. But of course, Oasis Wiesblatt, Liam and Marcus Rock, just so many talented players on that team. I do wonder how this is going to shake out. Could also demonstrate some things about, what Victoria's trajectory could have been. But they just didn't get the breaks, to my disappointment. But it did also demonstrate just how good of a team they really were and how prideful of an effort they put in this year. The QMJHL final is the only one that has yet to be set up, as Moncton pretty handily and perhaps even footily defeated the Royen Naranda Huskies in 4 games on that side of the bracket. But meanwhile, the Shawinigan Katarak and Rimouski Oceanic conference final is yet to be decided, as Shawinigan defeated Rimouski pretty emphatically 5-1 today to force Game 7. As they were just absolutely refused to be put away on home ice. Much credit to Yuri Klima for his 2-goal performance in that game, including the GWG. So still a little bit to be determined there. Game 7 is scheduled for Tuesday, and we'll determine finally, who the last 6 is going to be for this, for these seeds. And it should be a pretty exciting weekend. Hopefully we see some finals filled with a bit more competition last year than there was last year with the 3 sweeps. I'm sure various business-related and operations people, particularly on the television side, were disappointed that they weren't able to squeeze more money out of that because of how quickly each of them were decided. We'll see. I mean, there are some good matchups that are set up and or can occur. Let's see. We'll take a quick look at the USHL playoffs. Let's see. The Clark Cup race is pretty far along now, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't been able to go all in on this as much as I would have liked. Let's see. So on Friday, we got Muskegon, the Lumberjacks, taking on the Waterloo Blackhawks. Let's see. And let's see. Yeah, their shit is not set up as well as it should be. Yeah. Let's see. That'll be game 2 of hold on just a moment. let's see what for the final stages of this race, with Waterloo having taken game one on the first of this month on Thursday by a score of 3-0. Let me take a quick look at the recap for that one. Let's see. Yeah, pretty competitive game. Deceptive on the score line. Of course, Waterloo did outshoot Lincoln 34-27 in that game, but they did withstand quite a third period surge with 14 shots on goal by Lincoln as they attempted to stay in it. Of course, they entered the period down 2-0. Both goals were scored on the power play by Waterloo. Really got it done on special teams going into it, but alas, with 2 minutes and 3 seconds left, they were able to tally the empty netter and put it away. So let's see what happens with the USHL's title race coming to a close. Over in the BSHC in the Fred Page Cup pursuits. Let's see, they're just about done as well, I believe. I was monitoring this a bit, but I've had to taper off just a little, unfortunately. Now that my slate is starting to empty out a bit, I'll catch up a little bit more on how this has been shaking out. Let's see. Yeah, looks like we're down to the final four with still just the Penticton Brooks and Chilliwack versus Victoria series going on. Let me take a look at the bracket really quickly. If they haven't set up the way I remember, which is a little bit better than the USHL's website. Oh, here we go. Finally. Let's just check out this recap from yesterday. They have their stuff a little bit more consolidated than the USHL, although the main thing with the USHL is I just am not a fan of how their website is organized. Let's see, Interior Conference Final. The Brooks Bandits defeated the Penticton Bees 3-0. Let's see, and Brooks leads the series 2-0, with this being a bit of an upset as Brooks were the lower of the two seeds. The game notes note that, let's see, Keith McInnes opened the scoring for the Bandits on the power play with 15 seconds left in the second period. Nick Peluso doubled the Brooks lead with another power play goal in the first minute of the third. Zach Sahara registered his second shutout of the playoffs. Meanwhile, Chilliwack defeated Victoria by a score of 5-2. Brady Milburn had a goal and 2 assists for the Chilliwack Chiefs in this matchup. The Chiefs scored 3 goals in 4 minutes and 37 seconds in the third period to extend their lead to 4. And Regan Hiscock and Malcolm Green had the goals for the Victoria Grizzlies. There's one game on the slate for tomorrow with Penticton playing Brooks on the road, which is a bit of a task for them to get back in the series and stay alive, really, on the road. We'll see how it shakes out. It would certainly be quite a narrative for them to have, championship opportunity in their farewell tour to the BCHL before they depart for the WHL next season. And that covers it all. All the big stuff for this week's Dev Block.
Man. The Winnipeg Jets are very much dead in the ground like Harry Truman. The fact that it took them almost 15 minutes for a forward to get a shot on goal in that game is fucking absurd. Like, we can blame Hellebuck all we want for a defensive breakdown on the first goal. We can blame him for letting in a soft contested shot that never should have been taken by Matthew Joseph on the second goal. But you have 3 shots on goal in the first 18 minutes of this game. You know who else had 3 shots on goal in the first 18 minutes of their game? The Boston Fleet yesterday. Is it a fair comparison? Yes. Like, imagine just doing everything wrong. Like, when Dylan Sandberg and Luke Schem were your defensemen getting pucks to the net early, I know we can't take away Scott Arniel's Jack Adams finalist award, but or finalist award candidacy, but man, him being a finalist over Jim Montgomery, some bullshit, and we're seeing it for like front and center, like, and you know the Hellebuck hate, like he's not been good in this series. I'm not going to pretend he has, but to pretend that the Jets haven't been absolute dog shit since puck drop in Game 6 is not an accurate assessment. Like, they were bad in Game 2, or in Game 6. It's wild. Except the Wilds were not bad in Game 6. The Wild didn't lose because they choked against an inferior opponent. The Wild threw the kitchen sink at the Vegas Golden Knights, and it just wasn't enough. In a world where John Hines is a better coach than Scott Arniel, that's the one we live in.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's been said really, like, or appreciated that, you know, Minnesota's last 3 losses in that series were all 1-goal games. Like, they were in every single game with them. Crazy. Fucking crazy. And to think Toronto is once again Canada's best shot at a championship. He can't keep getting away with it.
You know, it's funny because like, but thinking about close games and like overarching narratives, it's actually the LA Kings close game narrative is actually kind of like conversely is an indictment because like I think in all 5 of the final 5 games in that series they were either ahead or tied after 2 periods and won exactly one of those 5. And I believe this is a phenomenon pointed out by our boy Cal Stanvard, also known as Hardcore Dowdy, also known as the most tolerable and intelligent Kings fan on the platform currently known as X. And I'm like, you know, it's actually like remarkable. Like, I don't. I'm not going to say that Jim Hiller is exempt from criticism because that's absolutely not the case. But like, it's also also a little bit frustrating that you know that the shills and like the casual fans will scrutinize that, and not the fact that Luke Robitaille, who's really the true shot caller, running that team in like a Joe Sakic is Chris McFarland's boss-esque manner, is effectively how I'd capture the dynamic between him and Rob Blake. And has passed on many opportunities to make that roster more complete and able to win close games, and will avoid a considerable amount of media scrutiny for this fact. Like, you really had to be appreciative for our boy Hardcore Dowdy, because he has done a better job than any hockey media outlet for capturing the incompetency and the internal politics of that organization's front office.
Yeah. You know, I love the Kings front office of they're beautiful, man.
Because they commit acts of terrorism on a team you hate.
Yep. I mean, I just need to point out that you know, the Maple Leafs got a lot of shit and the Minnesota Wild get a lot of shit. The Los Angeles Kings, as vaunted as they've been for the last 10 years, haven't been out of the first round in 10 years. It's beautiful. No matter how good this team is on paper, no matter how good of a roster they put together, they are incapable of getting out of the first round. It's beautiful.
There really should be no like leash or even like good PR, considering like as both Cal and I have both Cal and I have pointed this out on numerous occasions. The current regime forced the one that won the cups out. So like you can't even cut them slack for past successes, because they had nothing to do with it, and they excommunicated the individuals that were actually responsible for putting that team together. And whatever use and viability that Anschutz had as the owner of that team has completely passed its expiration date.
But you know, there's I think a more daunting thing about them that I think needs to be explored. And you know, I'm sitting here shitting on them because they haven't made it past the first round in a decade. But then, you know, let's go deeper, right? You know, how far down the rabbit hole do we go with this organization? And I think the more important thing to talk about with them is since the turn of the century, the LA Kings have only gotten out of the first round 4 times. Sure, they won 2 Stanley Cup championships since 2000, but since 2000, the LA Kings have either made the qualify for the playoffs and gotten past round 1 4 times total in 25 years. So we talk about the current regime, and let's face it, the Kings making the playoffs and getting knocked out in the first round 4 years in a row, relative to the franchise history and not the success of 15 years ago, 13 years ago, I'll be generous. Aside from the 3-year fringe dynastic run they had, the Kings are a terrible organization. I mean, they have such a legacy of just being fucking terrible that, like, I think that's kind of the thing with this regime. Like, them making the playoffs and not doing anything is still better than what they've been for a vast majority of their franchise's existence. So, like, I think the fans are kind of the victims here of expecting more because they got that 3-year run of competence.
Sure. The problem is, it's just that were they on par with like the best of the best in that ridiculous Western Conference at the turn of the moment? Not really, but they were on the fringes of that conversation, because like think of like the 2001 semifinals one of those 4 instances, interestingly enough. Against the eventual Stanley Cup champion and President's Trophy winners in the form of Colorado, they gave them everything they had as a team that was almost as talented and was extremely physical in the form of like, just like a team that was matched up to be an absolute thorn in the side of the undisputed best team in the league that year, and forced it to 7 games. Really could have gone either way. Peter Forsberg lost his spleen during that series, quite literally. It ruptured and it had to be removed, which kept him out the rest of the playoffs. And I think even the rest of the next regular season as well. So it's like there even is like a bar of them not being a true contender, but at least being interesting that there is a precedent for in their history, and they can't even reach that bar currently, which is pretty pathetic. Like, to even expect that much would be within reason, but is apparently unattainable for them.
Like, I love, like, and yeah, I'm a hater and a rival that hasn't made the playoffs in 7 years. But, we're not out here, I can't think of a team that's so disillusioned with what they actually are. And I love to see it. And like next season, like I don't foresee the Kings being better. Like it's their window isn't gonna be extended. Like it's not like this team is going to like their young core is not being developed. Like Brant Clark completely underutilized all season. But it's so fascinating of like whether or not that front office is actually going to be able to maintain a playoff spot next year. Because it's obvious that, Vegas is still going to be good because, they're just a well-constructed roster with prime-aged and young guys. Edmonton, as long as they have McDavid, are going to be, a viable playoff contender. Vancouver, jury's out on them. But, like, we saw a Calgary team that with some competent work in the front office and upgrading their roster's scoring ability, like Calgary has the ability to take a step with the right pieces. Anaheim with the right coach has the ability to take the next step. I think Seattle with the right coach, weirdly enough, has the roster pieces. Like I just don't know if the Kings are going to be able to like. At what point do you like? I almost think, and this is kind of a crazy thing to say, provided how shitty the entire division is, and they're not going to do it, but like they really need to explore a retool again.
There is a piece of tragedy in that, what seems to be is like the most tragedy for them, like not in the grand scale because fuck them, but then that the most talked about prospect for that is that Brant Clark is not going to be included in their future plans and has been floated around as a potential trade piece on numerous occasions.
Yeah, I've seen, and not to be that guy, but I'm gonna be that guy because I'm always that guy. Could you imagine what the Kings could have done in the playoffs this year if they had guys like Alex Iafallo, Sean Durzi, Gabriel Velarde, and Rasmus Kupari in their roster? Like, if only they had 4 guys like that who've been big for Winnipeg and Utah the kind of run they could have gotten on against Edmonton.
Yeah,
But hey, man, Darcy Kemper's a Vezina finalist, so you know.
yeah, there's like nature, like where have we seen this before? Energy with that whole thing. But like we can't include at least for the time being. You know, we can't include Brock Faber in this talk for at least for now because he did have a pretty dissatisfying season, including the playoffs, which like might have been like a testament to Gustafsson having the best goaltending performance anyone has had. Quite honestly, in the post playoffs so far. And no, I've never smiled in my life.
You know my favorite thing about Brock Faber in Minnesota? You know what he is, Liam? He's very average. Which means he's perfect to be a top pairing defenseman for the Minnesota Wild because that's all they've ever had.
Is this Jared Spurgeon slander?
Oh, 100%. Now hear me out. I am a big fan of Jared Spurgeon. I have respected Jared Spurgeon and to a lesser extent Jonas Brodin for a very long time as a guy who, you know, I gotta put it out there somewhere that I have watched enough Minnesota Wild games to know what I'm talking about in my life. But man, Jared Spurgeon being a top 20 Norris candidate several times in his career is the height of what I expect from any defenseman that will ever play for the Minnesota Wild. And, you know, he's just the heir to Jared Spurgeon. And look, you know, I was talking to our good buddy Damien yesterday. Like, you know, look, Brock Faber as a number one D is not a recipe that's going to win them a championship. But I'm going to give them credit for at least signing him to a reasonable contract long term. And everybody's going to be like, the fuck you mean that's a reasonable contract for Brock Faber at $8.5 million a year? But let's talk about it. He's 22 years old, and he's a great number 3 defenseman. Well, the Washington Capitals just signed a 27-year-old second-pairing defenseman to a $9 million year deal. So, you know, that's the going rate for a premier second-pairing defenseman. It just comes down to whether or not Bill Guerin will ever acknowledge that Brock Faber is just a top-tier second-pairing defenseman.
The Stealer of Smiles. The Albanian homunculus of
I mean, I just, you know, it's an opinion that I've been forming for years, though, of like, there is truth to having a world-class second-pairing defenseman is actually an underrated asset piece to your roster that I think a lot of successful teams are very good at. Like Thomas Harley in Dallas, I think, top tier second pairing defender, elite second pairing defender. And you have Miro Heiskanen on one, you've got a great duo forever, you know. Gerard in Colorado, world-class second pairing defender. I wouldn't want him as a number one guy, but you know, I think there needs to be a more in-depth narrative about high-end 18 to 22 minute a night guys because teams that are successful are starting to accumulate guys and actually just letting them be that. Like, just don't make them be number one Ds, and you're gonna be fine. One day I'll have to do some hardcore analytics heavy lifting for this opinion.
Yeah. I mean, like, I definitely think there's some merit to that, considering like the success of like, of course, as vaunted as like the Chara Seidenberg pairing was on those early tens Bruins teams. I think really what was like a big differentiator beyond that was that the bottom four, including pairing two, was able to win their minutes pretty emphatically. Like I mean, shit. You even just look at like pairing three, like you like as disappointing as Adam McQuaid's career was in some respects. He was a cumulative plus 46 over the course of 2 seasons. And, I'm not a big fan of that stat, as anybody with any like level of discernment should be at this stage. But there are those outlier cases, like especially when you look at his plus 30 in the 10-11 season. That indicates like if you're winning your minutes that much, uh, you know, um, with those sort of shifts, you're probably really, really excelling in that role, which provides a lot of utility to that team. So to have that sort of prorated to like second pairing minutes as well is obviously a tremendous asset that anyone should take, and like any team would, you know, uh, benefit greatly for in pursuit of having a competitive advantage over a large number of teams, which like with your with those um, with that part of the roster is really something that a contender should aspire to.
One guy who's I've always felt to be one of those really sneaky, great second, third, one of the most sneaky, effective second, third pairing guys. And I'm not going to call him an elite second pairing guy, but a player who, if he had never ended up in Buffalo, and if you exclude his one season in Buffalo, is sneakily one of the most effective bottom pairing guys, and almost always in the playoffs lately in some capacity or another in a valuable role. Is Dmitry Kulikov? Is like Dmitry Kulikov is I think what people think Luke Shen is, in the sense of like this is a dude who you just kind of trot out there on your third pairing 16 minutes a night and wins a shitload of those shifts, doesn't really lose a lot of the shifts, and really just he's a core mechanic of the Florida blue line the last couple years. And even when, the Winnipeg Jets used to win playoff series, was a core, element for them. And just like, hey, we don't lose and get exposed. Like, and that's the thing. People are like, oh, Hellebuck's a bad playoff goalie. Yeah, this year and last year, but like, he was a hell of a lot better when he had guys that weren't, other than Luke Shen, Hayden Fleury, Dylan DeMello, and Neil Pionk back there 7 years ago. Like,
Yeah.
when you build a bad blue line, bad things happen. It's kind of sad that we're. It's kind of sad that we're gonna sit here and like look at Winnipeg and how poorly they're doing in this series, and we're gonna look at their goalie and we're gonna ignore their blue line. And we talked about this last week when they inevitably don't come back, even though the Blues do have the 2-0 lead. When they inevitably don't pull this off, it's going to be the narrative that he's not a playoff goalie and he's playing behind a terrible blue line, and the Jets are who we thought they were, and we let him off the hook.
The weak fear happiness itself.
That if and when they inevitably fuck this up, man, that title for an article will truly have delivered. I was waiting to repurpose that, as we spoke about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I needed Winnipeg to fuck this up catastrophically before that came back into circulation. And look where we are. And I think that is a good pivot point to our big finish this week.
So, maybe I shouldn't read into too much into what one journalist says, especially considering the person in question, who I will not name, can be off the mark a fair bit. And it's not, if you didn't see it already, it's not the person you think it is, aka the guy who has a nefarious reputation from multiple stops where he was disliked at each one. It's someone who's a lifer in covering Flyers hockey, but effectively a writer believes that the team should look at giving Austin Elliott an ELC as an undrafted free agent. I think that while I do feel like he was, I do feel like his London run has demonstrated that he was an undercoveted piece in the WHL, because I don't think this is something that just happens, even bearing in mind he is playing for a team that doesn't give up a lot of high danger chances. He is a good backbone, and I think that this run has proven that. I think that before any team, be it the Philadelphia Flyers or anyone else, considers giving him a pro contract, we have to see what further cultivation he has in the NCAA with UMass Lowell. Because, I mean, as good as that blue line is going to be next year, with the additions of course, Victoria's Nate Miskey, who's, I think I would classify him as a TWD, really, and a damn good one at that. Luke Shipley and Joshua Morey, it's going to probably be one of the best blue lines in that conference, at least. But it's still, going to be a very much a bend, don't break approach, where the team is going to be facing a lot more shots than they get on net. That's just how we've grown accustomed to Bazin's coaching style. If we see Austin Elliott thrive for, we'll say, 2 years under that structure, then it's worth asking if he should be given a serious look at being given a pro opportunity. There's a lot that can be demonstrated in this, and I think that we need to get a sample size of that before we judge that he's worth that pro look to the point of investing money. I think he has the potential to be better than a number of teams, including Philadelphia's existing goaltender prospect options. Certainly not better than Yegor Zavragin, considering the acumen he's developed in the pros at this point, which is among the best from goaltenders from his country all time at this point. But before any team sees him as a viable option to fix the goaltending situation long term, there's just a bit of development and a bit of prove it that he needs to do before that becomes a risk that you take.
Yeah, I just wanted to really double click on the week on, just the PWHL expansion to Seattle, and really, some of the narratives kind of really intrigued who some of the coaching decisions might be for that position, as well as how it ties to the NHL. With the Seattle Kraken head coaching position open and the PWHL Fleet head coaching position open, very intrigued to see what gets done there, since Seattle is, as I alluded to in my article, with its history in the professional hockey landscape, especially at the collegiate level, so heavily removed from being a traditional market as opposed to the first six in Vancouver. Really intriguing to see what they do with their coaching department for the PWHL. It's not like you can just pluck a Washington State hockey coach like they did with the other six teams. So really, very very curious to see who and what they do with their coach. I'd like to see them potentially pull somebody from the Division 3 ranks, much like Natalie Darwitz in the first year with PWHL Minnesota. Really don't want to see them go back to the bargain bin. I said this, and I'm going to put this on tape now, even though I probably shouldn't. I don't want another Ken Klee. Like, the PWHL as a league needs to not hire dudes who can't fucking cut it in the NHL or the AHL. Like, move people up instead of getting cast outs that aren't wanted in the top tier pro men's leagues. Like, get a guy from the coast, or get a coach from any collegiate level. Just don't pull an AHL cast off like Ken Klee. Don't do it again.
Be interesting maybe if they were to tap into like like the possibility, because they're going to be in that market and competing to an extent. If they were to pluck like a successful WHL coach, or at least have that as part of their search, like it would like you know it, it would definitely like there's definitely some potential there about seeing like someone with like a proven track record and an impressive acumen to see kind of actually like uh, having like those expectations, but also like shifting the dynamic that they'll be in quite drastically, and even with the CHL being more established, having higher expectations due to it being a professional environment, with more competitive stakes, more money involved, etc., different recruiting, etc., etc. I definitely throw the hat in the ring in that for sure. But yeah, I think with all the PWHL gets right, definitely would think a more meritocratic approach is good for it, like and would make sense. But yeah, pretty productive episode that covered a lot of the big developments. RIP to what do I give like a quick RIP to the Avs as their Game 7 curse continued in a fashion that has to be nightmarish to be on the receiving end of. But happy trails to them. And best wishes to Dallas. Hopefully their reinforcements arrive soon. It said a lot, maybe in both directions, that they were able to accomplish what they did without them. Says a little bit about the Avs, but says a little bit about them as well. But definitely, I think this race is fairly open at this point. As much as like I looked at these playoff matchups and think like, yeah, I've never been more bored on something on its face in terms of the teams that are in this year as I've been. This is among the most like uninterested I've been at it on its face. Possibly like throughout the majority, if not the entirety of this century. I am interested in that you kind of really just don't know for certain, or really with any like you kind of know with even less of a degree of certainty than usual this year who's going to even be in the finals, I think, than normal. Never mind capture it. That's kind of just how I felt anyway. I kind of guess I kind of gave like a probably response as to who I expected to give the title, who I expect to win the title when I was asked that earlier today. So, you know, it's definitely cool in a narrative sense anyway, in terms of that unpredictability. And it'll be fun to watch that unfold. But alas, for personal reasons, which we will not disclose at this time, and we'll save for a later date, we will not be reconvening on the pod a week from today. We will be taking that day off, but there should be a lot of written content coming out. Maybe no promises, but maybe there will be a reaction to the very interesting live draft lottery that's set to take place tomorrow night. I'll be around most likely, but with no real degree of certainty will I say that. But there will be a lot of articles coming out. Well, I'll have some form of commentary on the WHL draft, which is set to take place on Wednesday as well. We kind of have a good feeling as to what's going to happen at the very top at this point, as I've discussed in the past. But there's still plenty of stuff under that that's worth having legitimate discourse about. So it should be cool to see how that shapes up and shakes out. But take care, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to everybody who's checking us out on Spotify and YouTube. We appreciate your ongoing support, and please stay engaged with what we have coming out. So good night, everyone. See you in a couple weeks.